Call the meeting back to order. And I have a motion moved by Doug Hutchison, seconded by Herget. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby returns to open session of Council. What do we got, Mark? 7:04 p.m. Any questions or comments on that motion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. I don't think there's any business arising from closed session, Mark. So it was only those matters that we went into closed session were all discussed. Let the minutes note that. Public meetings, we have none this evening. We will be kind of a public good news story, I guess. In about 15-20 minutes, I think we have an opportunity with our insurance and maybe a new piece of equipment coming forward. So that'll kind of be a public action. On the consent agenda, I have a motion moved by Bev Cutting and seconded by John A. Bell. Be it resolved that items A1 to C1 inclusive contained in Part 1 consent agenda be adopted as amended, and further that authorization be given for actions to be taken as may be necessary to give effect to the recommendations contained therein. 1 point, Mark, Councillor Lawrence has declared a conflict on the minutes. And Mark, the amended part?
Yeah, in my consent agenda, I did note some appointments in the updated bylaw to appoint citizens and officials to committees. That's bylaw 64 of 2017. I did note in my consent agenda that Jim Wilkinson was one of the additions, but his name is actually Jim Atkinson. I had it correct in the bylaw, but not in the consent agenda. I did also was noted by a few council members that I did omit the name of Chris Kennedy as an addition to the West Grey Hanover Police Service Steering Committee. So that has been added. And I have a few other changes that have been requested that I'll update at the time of bylaw 64.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments on the motion? Call the question, and all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay, thank you. There we are. That moves us down then to communications from Mayor and Council. Is there any communications that have happened? Councillor Lawrence. Carol?
Thank you. I have a few. First of all, just to remind everyone, the Snowbirds will be appearing at the Saugeen Municipal Airport on Wednesday, this Wednesday. The show starts at 4 o'clock with various air shows, and the Snowbirds will be in the air at 6 or 6:30. The night before, there's a meet and greet if anyone's interested. Tickets are available through Phil Englishman. It's at the Best Western in Walkerton. Hope to see you there. And I'm sure Doug will report on Ellenwood's 150 and the July 1st upcoming. I do just want to say that we were challenged by Brockton on the trivia, and we were very close, but we lost by 2 points. And we did bring in a ringer because there were 5 of them and only 4 of us. So we were able to bring in a West Grey citizen and the person of Sharon Heipel to help us. So it worked very well. July 2nd, the day after the big celebration here, will be the Durham Girls Reunion. And that's all former members have been invited back. And that's going to be at the Legion at 2 o'clock on the Sunday. And just quickly, the townwide Newstead yard sale last Saturday was very successful. There was a lot of merchandise or items out and a lot of people driving around. So it went very well.
Anything else? Councillor Herget. Rebecca?
Yes, so this past week at the Durham Library,
pull it forward.
Durham Library,
there you go.
There was the opening of the Lion's Den, and at that welcoming and the ribbon cutting, it was very hot, and it was noted that it was very hot and humid in the library. So I would like to have some discussion about that before it gets too late into July, August, hot time. Anyway, if we could look after that, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other, Councillor Thompson?
Just on the library and the air conditioning, that's being worked on, it's being looked after, so we'll proceed with that through CAO and Public Works Infrastructure. A week ago, last Tuesday, was the opening of the playground equipment at the Ball Diamonds. The Diamond Project group put forward a lot of work and put up a nice playground equipment with the assistance of the municipality, and representatives from council were there for the opening of it. It's very well used, and the plans are underway to add additional playground swings and so on at Diamond B for next year. So they want to move ahead with that. And the other thing is this Sunday at 2 o'clock is the decoration day at the Durham Cemetery. So this coming Sunday. So just remind everyone.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hutchison. Doug?
Yeah, just a couple items. Last Saturday, the Elmwood had their the tent that was had their celebration for Canada 150, and a very successful day. A lot of children activities. They had a dinner, a very successful dinner that sold out. An evening, as Councillor Lawrence mentioned, we had a bit of a competition with our local municipality, Brockton. And lots of things going on there. Had a very successful day. Congratulations to Dale Aarons and Shirley Young, who are on our committee, who did a lot of the work, but also there was a lot of other people helped out to make that day a success. So they were pleased. Sounds like they've raised some money to help with cover the costs of their kitchen renovations in their hall, which was what the funds were going towards. So very successful day. Also coming up on July 1st is going to be the West Grey July 1st celebration for all of West Grey in Durham, and starting out with a parade in the afternoon. And I believe it's 3:30. I think they're starting out getting organized. 4 o'clock is when it goes down Main Street. So they're looking for entrants for that. So if you're interested in getting a float in there, then there is a registration form on the website. Also, there's a decorating contest for homes and businesses and so on, so people hopefully will get involved in that. I know they have some entries. But also, the day will have a number of things taking part, all at the community center. So there'll be kids' games, dinner put on by the West Grey Lions, Durham Lions group is putting on a dinner, lots of musical entertainment, and all capped off with huge fireworks at the end of the day. So lots of exciting things going on July 1st in Durham for all of West Grey. One other item I'd just like to report on that I was at is a week ago, Tuesday, I was at a meeting at the Blue Water District School Board to talk about their community planning and partnership guideline, where they're looking for information and sharing with local municipalities, Board of Health, Federation of Agriculture, so on, all the local people sharing with the Public Education Board to talk about projections for enrollment, school closings, community hubs. There's a lot of talk about community hubs where there's other opportunities to have things come into the school and keep the school viable, because obviously in our area, small communities are struggling with declining population, therefore schools are closing. So there's a lot of discussion around that, and there was a lot of positive discussion about growth in the area, particularly when you talk about Bruce Power and the number of jobs that are coming in there, the medical marijuana plant that's happening in the Bruce area. There's a company called Superheat, which is really growing in that area. But also across the board, there seems to be a lot of positives about growth in the area. So that was a good spin-off. Hopefully those numbers we'll be able to relay those numbers to the Blue Water Board, so that will help when it comes to making a decision on school closures in the future. There's lots of information on the website. Just encourage people to go to their website and take a look at it. I have a number of other items that have figures, facts and figures about schools and the number of students and where they're going in the next 15 years. So I'll share that with council and maybe at our committee of the whole, some more information. But for general public, if you go to the website, there's lots of information there. So it was a good meeting and all. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. And Carol?
Just,
Final?
if I might ask a question, going back to the snowbirds, are we able to put in a booth there? Has that all been taken care of and we'll have somebody on site? Great.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, good. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks for that. Yes, a big festivity, certainly Wednesday night. And to everybody out there, it is free. So, you know, even you insurance guys could afford to come to that. Looking forward to seeing the Snowbirds. They have canceled a couple of performances, but the one at Saugeen Airport is on for Wednesday. So here's hopeful that we have some good weather and not the weather we had on Saturday night. Don't need any of that type of activities. One thing, the Herb Fair was excellent. Was able to get there on the weekend as well too. Always if you were planning a June wedding, again, the weather was fantastic. I think it's been 30 some odd years and there's been 2 years that it has rained. The rest of the time it's been sunny and beautiful, so that's the idea out there. If you're planning a June wedding, do it to find out when the Herb Fair is, and it'll be perfect outdoor weather for you. So they were promoting that as well too. Thank you to everybody that got to a couple of functions that I may not have got to. So thank you for attending on behalf of the municipality. Our neighbors in Wellington North, Mount Forest in particular, are having their homecoming on Saturday. Hopefully we'll have some type of a float in that. We have the banners are here, so we have them in place and ready to go for that. Unfortunately, I won't be able to do that. I've already committed to the Hospital Foundation has a fundraising activity on that day as well too, and the OAPSB Police Services Board's summer conference is just wrapping up on Saturday as well too, so I have to stay there until I think the parade will be over before I get out of the town of the Blue Mountains, is where it's being held this year. So very good. Anything else from any of the council members on anything coming up? One other thing, if you haven't got enough fireworks in Durham on July 1st, Priceville's fireworks as well at Stoddard Hall. One time of the year when Priceville has a traffic jam, and it will be July 1st this year again. So look forward if you can get back and forth between the two of them. There's a lot of activity certainly going on. Okay. All right. We have 2 delegations. Our first delegation, I see a number of the individuals are here. It's with great celebration, is it, Chief Schwartz? Or a quiet celebration? Our new fire truck has arrived. We had an unfortunate accident with the fire truck, and great working with our insurance company, Frank Cowan, Tony Comisio, our account manager, and Sean Kazarian, our adjuster on that, and the broker of record, Dave Eccles, are with us. And I think you guys want to go out and have your pictures taken around a fire truck. And I know that your shiny smiles won't be as shiny as what Phil has the fire truck, but it'll be close, close second on that. So Phil, anything else that you want to say on that, or? Yeah, we can get one turned on for you, Phil.
Anyways, I'd like to say thank you to the insurance company for working close with us and getting this issue resolved, and I think from what you see outside, the outcome has been good. So on behalf of the Municipality of West Grey and the firefighters, thank you very much.
Tony, Dave, Sean, Now's your time, like the cameras are rolling. It's not, sure. Absolutely. There should be a button there.
Yeah, I don't like to shy away from a podium, so.
Well, you've never been shy of a microphone before. I don't know why you would be now.
Thank you, Your Worship. Always kind words. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tony Camiso. I've met most of the councillors at various conferences as well as dealing with staff. So my name is Tony Camiso. I'm the account manager for the Frank Cowan Company. Been with the company for 9 years. My territory of service starts here in Grey County, goes over to Bruce County. From there, it goes straight down to Huron and Perth counties, and then to Lambton, Middlesex counties. So a beautiful area to cover. I get to meet a lot of nice people, and this is no exception. So I wanted to take this time actually to thank staff and council. This is actually the first time I've been able to address council, so it's quite the honor. Thank you very much. Frank Cowan Company is actually celebrating their 90th year in business. So not many Canadian-owned businesses that are still running for that long. So we celebrated a few weeks ago. We had a company picnic, and it was a good celebration. Everybody got home safe. We were all home by 6 o'clock. It was nice, but it is something that I'm really proud of. Something that the company's really proud of, and something that I'm spreading the word about because it is a rarity in these days. Before we go outside and do the photo op, there's a few gentlemen that do need to be thanked. And I'm going to start with Dave Eccles, your local broker. So as soon as this happened, Dave did a really good job of just keeping the communication lines open. And believe it or not, running off a fire truck doesn't happen too often. So it was one of those claims that, kind of had the office buzzing, and Dave did a really good job of just keeping everybody level-headed and on the same page. The next gentleman is Mr. Sean Kazarian. Sean's your local adjuster, and he did a really good job of keeping this claim moving, keeping it moving forward, and most importantly, getting it dealt with in a really timely manner. Like I said, these claims don't happen every day when you're dealing with such a significant loss. So you need expertise, you need patience, and it was great to have Sean and his experience handle the claim right from the get-go. Finally, I want to thank the fire chief and your CAO, Larry Adams. These two gentlemen were extremely understanding. They gave us the time and day to explain exactly how the claim was progressing. They even invited us up here to give us a chance to just sit down and talk about where the claim was going and how things are happening on the insurance side of things. So again, gentlemen, thank you for your time and understanding, and most importantly, your professionalism. Because a lot of the times when I address council, I'm getting yelled at. People are throwing stuff at me, so I gotta, dodge things. So it's nice to come here to West Grey in my first official meeting to address.
That can be arranged here.
It's great to come up here today and to have a positive experience and a positive story. So this is what insurance is for. This is what it's meant for. And other than that, I really don't want to take any more time. Like you said, you have another delegation, but thank you very much for this opportunity. And most importantly, thank you for your continued loyalty and support of the Frank Cowan Company. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Tony. I think you're being very humble because it was a privilege working with you and the rest of the staff at Frank Cowan as well, too. Princeton, I believe it is. It's 90 years, and you haven't outgrown Princeton, or Princeton hasn't outgrown you. The all 100 residents of Princeton. It is a very down-to-earth company, and it's been a privilege working with you, and thank you very, very much for your professionalism in handling the claim as well, too. It's something that, as you said, doesn't happen very often. Phil, once, that's enough. We certainly, as you said, it's there once, and we hope that it doesn't happen again, but I know if it does, we can depend on Frank Cowan and Company being there to support us and get us through any of the tribulations that we may go through. So again, thank you very much, Tony, as well, too. So with that, I think you've got it arranged, Phil. There is a truck, sunlight outside. It'll be an opportunity. No, Mr. Crosby has a flash on his camera, and I think a few other cameras will be there. So if we can go outside, we'll adjourn just for a few minutes and go and get the picture taken. You sure the truck's big enough to, hold all of us this? Oh, it's big enough, all right, yeah.
Enough light?
Oh, yeah, it's just the truck is so long. Is that good? Are you good, Carrie?
I'm good. I got 3 or 4.
Can I ask?
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay, all right.
Cobwebs on the sign. I think. Want to get in there and they can lift you right across. Don't put any water on that sign. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. And again, thank you, obviously to staff, but thank you to Frank Cowan and company for their indulgence in getting the situation fixed with our fire department. We have a second delegation, and we're just a little bit late with that, but Mr. Miller, Bob Miller, is with us and would like to talk about resurfacing a portion of the Mulock Road. So, Bob, the floor is yours. Welcome this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and member of the council. First page on there, little thing there, what Grey County proposed to do on Grey County Road 25. We talked about sightline there a while ago, but they have the opinion the sightline is just dandy fine. They said it's good for, meets MTO standards for 100 kilometers an hour. I disagree with it. But the thing was, back in the day, 20 years ago or so, when that road was basically constructed to the standard it is, there was a little strip coming off County Road 25 onto the Mulock Road. And that road was always washboard. People would come around the corner and they thought they had to go too fast when they came around the corner. A little bit of a grade going up. So in those days, or that day, when they surface treated the road, they surface treated in, they marked it about 200 feet. That was 20 years ago or more. And that surface treating had got very thin. So I suggested to these engineers that maybe they could apply hot mix, same as on the County Road 25, and they said no, they have no money for that. Talk to Wes Gray. So I'm talking to Wes Gray. It's only 200 feet we're talking about. We're not talking about miles. 200 feet should have some attention when they're doing that road. So I would like council or whoever to maybe consider having a look at it and see what could be done to keep that 200 feet hard surface somehow.
Okay.
It gets a lot of traffic. People, and especially now when they're going to hard surface County Road 25 again, it's going to make it smoother. people go around the corner faster, and it gets to be more traffic, more development, more trailers, more mobile homes. People just have to use that road. So all you do is just ask for you to consider it. Whatever, when millers are doing the paving there, it probably wouldn't be a big thing to do that 200 feet, but the county says no, they're only going to do the radius coming around, come in, and they're going to come in about as far as the stop sign. So I stepped it off, and it's about 200 feet, where the old chip and tar is. But after 20 years, it's got thin.
I certainly wouldn't doubt that at all. Mr. Miller, when's the county, and I should know this, is it in the next couple of weeks that we're going to be going at that?
Well, they say on the front page here, and when July, middle of July, about.
Right.
These here two engineers here, well, it's Anthony Gibbons. He's the guy that seems to be in charge of that particular project. I also talked to Matt Mark.
Yes.
They all have the same opinion, all have the same story. You think they put their heads together before they started this project, and just money to just do so much and nothing extra.
Well, my suggestion is leave that with us. I'm going to see what Brent, our Public Works Director, is jotting a few things down there. The elevation coming out onto 25 is okay, or are we going to get that rectified as well too?
They're not going to do none. They said the sight line is good. They said the sight line meets MTO standards for 100 kilometers an hour. Now, one thing they did suggest, maybe they could put up a hidden intersection sign for traffic going west on the east side of the hill there. Mm-hmm. And I thought I heard one of them say something, but maybe I think it'd be a good idea to reduce the speed limit. That could be a moneymaker.
Okay. Thank you, Bob, for bringing it to our attention. As I said, we'll work through and see what we have available as far as West Grey goes. And I will be at the county sometime in the next week to see if there is any extra asphalt that may need to be dispersed, and the best and the first place to disperse it would be at the Mulock Road.
Yeah, it would be a nice idea. Because for me, well, I'm not going to around here too many more moons. I'm getting to that point. But there's lots of other customers back there that.
Yes.
Everybody complains about it. Now, another thing, the money, and we talk about money and development, there's always development charges getting charged for development.
Yes.
And wear and tear on that road is kind of caused by development. So there may be maybe a few dollars in the road's part of the development charge to help cover that cost.
Well, as development charges are specific when we go there, I'm not sure that was identified as one of the roads in the development charges when we put that together, but we will look there as well too. See if there is.
It's development going. There's a bit of new building back there. I'm sure they paid development charge too, so everybody should be entitled to get a little bit.
Spread around, when you take a look at West Grey and spread it around, if your tar and chip has got thin over 20 years, spreading development charges all across West Grey in proportion would be very thin. I'm not sure that we would get enough dust to even.
Well, every little bit helps. Now, we don't see too much on the 14th. Like I was saying there before, too, before the civic address system came in, that road from the 12th north was known as the Alps Side Road.
Correct?
You probably heard of that.
Up in the Alps, yes.
Yeah. And just another little bit of history. On top of the highest hill in the Alps, on the west side, in about 100 feet, was a tower that was built by the federal government about 1920. As an observation tower, I think it was involved with the wartime things. It sat apparently, I don't mind of it, but it sat for a few years and then they took it down. And when Telstat came to Allen Park, they put a tower up there because there was a point there that was precisely marked as being whatever it was, latitude, longitude, and so on. Telstat was able to use that mark to help them set their antennas up at Allen Park as a guideline.
As a marker.
And that marker is still there. So other than traffic on our particular road, it's all right. We see impact quite often. I don't know why. And we see the road guys, they're on there quite regular. They were on there today even fixing it up. So no complaints about our road on our road, or the traffic or the service on our road.
Service? Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
We'll have Brent make note of that.
I mean, some people sometimes grumble a bit, but it's been pretty good lately, so. Okay, if you can just see what you can figure out for this 200 feet. It's not 2 miles, it is 200 feet.
We don't want to go all the way to Crawford, but.
No,
we
well,
could.
if you want to, you can, but.
Yeah. At least to the 14th.
It was about 20 years ago they did this original, and about 5 years ago, they put another layer on, but it was a poor job in wet weather. And it had to, but they only came in just to the stop sign on that one. They didn't come all the way in on that, so. Okay, I'll let you go. Time keeps going on, so.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Bob, and we'll see what we can do with that. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Okay. We are then done with delegations. Any business arising from the previous meeting? Seeing none, then let's get down to staff reports. And the first one, of course, is our Director of Finance Treasurer, and the accounts, I think is where we'll start. And that is on page 28? 48, yes, I was going to say it's not 28, I know that. There we are. So the vouchers, any questions on the voucher before I introduce the motion? Doug, Councillor Hutchison.
Just a couple quick ones. Page 64, page 14 on your report, Carrie, OBN Security Services. I'm not sure, can you explain that? I was at the arena, I think. Just have to look where it was there. Page 64. So it's at the, it's Normanby Community Center, OBN Security and Investigative, it's Security Service. I just wondered, was that for security for a function or something, or what was
Yeah,
it?
I think.
That would be a
Tom
stag and doe, wouldn't
Yeah.
it? Security for
Yeah.
stag and doe.
And then Tom bills it back on the hall
Okay.
rental.
All right, I wonder what that was. Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure it was security cameras or something. All right. Yeah.
Yep.
And one other one had to do with the donation for the tennis club, Carrie. Was that coming up somewhere that the tennis club had donated $500? Was that in your report there anywhere or not?
Have it in this report.
Okay, all right. Well, it'll come later then? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Recognition. Okay, thanks, Doug.
Okay.
Is that all? Any other questions or comments? on the accounts. Then I have a motion moved by John A. Bell and seconded by Rob Thompson. Be it resolved that the Director of Finance Treasurer be authorized to pay the accounts presented as voucher number 11, 2017 of the Municipality of West Grey in the amount of $2,779,439.15. Say it fast, it rolls really quick. 7 digits. Of course, the 2 million because of tax and our little donations to the school board and the county. Any questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Okay, thank you. Anything else? Carrie?
Yes, I do have, Brent has received the new tandem truck, and so we're just seeking approval for payment so that it doesn't delay it for the next 2 weeks. We had tendered for the project, and it has come in. They've been in receipt of it for a week or two, so we just wanted to get the payment out for the truck in advance. It just didn't make it onto the accounts before we set them out. So I think there's a motion, direct motion, yeah. Yeah,
Do
it's
that as a
100,
direct
with
motion?
the taxes, the total for payment is $163,641.02. So that'll come up at the end of the meeting for you. And then I do just want to comment on the couple of bylaws that, the fees and charges bylaw, the amendment for Schedules I and J, they deal with the Durham and Normanby recreation. They deal with the ice rates. That's the only rates that were actually changed in it. We just reproduced the rest of the schedules just so it's cleaner to put in with the bylaw. I will have there's some changes to the pickleball and roller skating, so I'll have those for the next meeting in July. And that'll be on the Newstead Recreation Schedule K, so that'll be on a separate bylaw when that one comes up. The other bylaw is the tax rate bylaw. When we were doing some further work on our tax rates, we realized we had on the new construction rate for commercial and industrial properties, just a slight typo on it, so it didn't change what we raised for taxation for ourselves, but it would change the amount for school boards. So that's just an amendment to change the total to be raised for school board purposes instead of 3.429 million, 3.38 million, and then it changes the rates accordingly to 0.0114 instead of 0.014. So that's the purpose, and that's not only in those new construction rates for industrial and commercial. So that's the purpose of that bylaw amendment there, if there's any other questions on those.
Any other questions? Rob, Councillor Thompson.
Just on the rates and fee, I noticed for Shinny, for the ice rental, Durham's at $5 per person, and Normanby just says $5. And just, I think it should be added in there so nobody has any questions per person.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Just for clarity. The other one with the tax ratio settings that the county, because we haven't passed those, are those going to cause you any difficulty on getting our rates set?
We have those from the county, the draft ratios, and so we can, I think it's the capping ratios, is that the ones you're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah, so we can do those after the fact and ratify those, so, yeah. They've all been worked into our capping calculations. That's more just the banking transaction between lower tier municipalities and the county, who collects what and hands it up, so it doesn't affect the actual tax rates that each local municipality. Those ratios, they have been set as far as the residential being 1, farm being 0.25,
Right.
but the capping, recovery, and clawback and those are the bylaw that is yet to be finalized. So,
Right.
yeah, and before we actually do our final billing, those will be done because they'll be done at your first. Is that it?
Well, they were on the agenda for June the 8th.
Oh, right. So now, is that the
But that
29th?
did not,
Yeah.
that did not get passed, so we will,
Yeah, so if you have them done for this one, then yeah, they will be in place before we have to do our commercial billing, but it won't
Yes.
change how much we're raising except for the capped portion of the
Yeah,
commercial
clawbacks.
class. Yeah.
so, okay, thank you. Any other questions for Carrie? Thank you very much, Carrie. Then, Director of Infrastructure and Public Works, Brent. First one is the RFPs for the Durham Walkway Bridge. Anything else you need to say on that one? It's pretty straightforward. Miss Mighton,
Just have to think.
really? Really?
Before you take it home.
There's your check. Okay, fine, you caught me with it. I didn't lose it. So, okay, there you go, Carrie. Yes, in the vault's probably better than in my pocket. I probably would have went home with it. No, it would have been here. So the Walkway Bridge, the RFP is there. Any questions on that? Rebecca? Councillor Herget?
I would actually like to see that this be a project that we fundraise for. Initially, this was a want. It's got to get fixed somehow. The first plan that came to us was just to redo exactly what was there, right? And we were hopeful to get it done in advance of July 1st. That timeline is not feasible, obviously. And we would actually be spending infrastructure money for roads and bridges that are traveled on for this project currently. Is that right? Yes. So that being said, I can't really see that we need to take money from regular infrastructure projects and put towards a walkway bridge that is very well liked and loved, and people want it opened up right away. But at this rate, July 31st, and then we would be, at that point, just awarding the contract, right? Awarding the tender, and then when would we be seeking completion?
Go ahead, Brent.
Completion would be in the RFP, completion date of November 3rd.
Yeah. So at that rate, I feel like we have a lot of fundraising that should happen. I'm not sure how everybody feels about that, but we did just go on a road and bridge tour where we will be closing roads and bridges that are traveled and taking that money and putting it towards this walkway bridge. I would like to see council decide to fundraise for that instead of using money. That's it.
Okay, comment, Brent?
One of the things, Councillor Hergert, that has been discussed with some of the other councillor members is the possibility of utilizing, and it's been done in previous projects, where people would buy a paving stone or a plank, a board, and have their names engraved in those pieces, which is actually a better way, in my opinion, of obtaining the money, because regardless of how much they donate, and I'm thinking of a paving stone, and I don't know the value. I'm saying $50. Somebody donates $50, they pay for that brick plus the name on, and I know paving stones aren't $50. They're around $8. So you get where I'm going with this. Same thing with the planks on the deck of the bridge. Depending on if we use composite type structures, meaning the I'm trying to forget the name of it, but the resin-based planks that are hard, they're not subjected to weathering and that sort of thing, and their names are engraved on the plank. They pay for that, and again, I don't know what that value would be, but in other words, instead of having a memory or a plaque outside, that those names are actually, people buy a brick and they put their name is on the site as a means of developing funds for the project. Has a bit of more of a flair to it, and it just has more meaning to it. I think people, regardless of how much they donate, at least they know if they donated $50 or whatever, they actually can see where their name or whatever is going to be there for many, many years. So that's a thought or an idea of after the process of the means of putting that out there to the public.
Okay. Rebecca, further?
I was just going to say that Mr. Donnie Tremble was in here 2 weeks ago telling us how difficult it was to raise money after the fact. I feel like this should be done in advance of the construction. I would like us to form some sort of fundraising committee and move on with that.
Well, so you're volunteering to head that one up?
I would.
Okay.
I would be more than happy to.
Councillor Lawrence?
Thank you. I don't agree with you, Councillor Hergert. In the first place, we do have some monies in the budget when the budget has been passed, and that was to go toward the bridge. I agree it's difficult to raise money once a project's done. However, what Brent is suggesting, it's easier to raise money like that while the project is ongoing. And I think people are a lot more apt to donate when they can see their name there or their grandkids or whatever. And we did do that in a project in Durham at the Vickers Park. And the names were put into the bricks. And I would like to see that bridge done. I think if we don't do it this year, it probably never get done. But it's an iconic landmark, really, for Durham, which is in West Grey, which is in the middle of West Grey. And I think it's one of the things we have that people do see and do stop to look, and they look at the dam, and we're trying to always improve our municipality to get people to stop, and I think this is one chance we have. And I do think, I agree with you, it's hard to raise money once the project's done, but I think if it was ongoing, and we had a good fundraising committee that was out there and working, that we might be able to raise. I certainly don't think we can raise the whole of it, but we could raise a portion. And I remind you that the Durham girls started it, and it's very small in terms of the overall, but it was over 500 that was started, and it's sitting here waiting for somebody to take it on. And yeah, but I don't agree with putting it off.
Anybody else? Rob?
I was just going to say that I could agree that it should be run in tandem with the design project so it can keep moving forward. I'm not saying stall it, but it is difficult to raise money after the fact. I don't feel like we should be putting off real bridges like the Kennedy Bridge for a want of the Walkway Bridge. And I can understand the economic impact, and I appreciate the Durham girls have started the fundraising, but I feel like it should be going on at the same time as our design review.
Okay. Rob? Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, I agree with what Councillor Lawrence is saying, and if this isn't moved ahead, it's never going to get done, and it's a very important part. It's access for the art gallery and all the other businesses along that area, and school children. I think there's a lot more people walk that bridge than people drive over the Kennedy Bridge. So I think it's important that we move ahead. And that's true, because I talk to people that live out there, and there's a lot of people that don't want that bridge open. If you go and talk to the residents out there, it's a lot nicer now. It's nice and quiet for them. But anyways, besides that, if we're going to start fundraising, people are tapped out. That's why we didn't get all the money we should have got for the warming center at the arena. That money was not there. People are tapped out. So if we could do it the way Brent has suggested with the bricks, and that's similar to what the Children's Safety Village has done. With a donation, you get your name on a brick and so on and so forth. So that's a nice way of doing it along with it. But I think if we stall any longer, it's not going to get done, and it's a very important part of West Grey.
Doug? Councillor Hutchison?
Yeah, I agree. I think we do need to move forward with it. I like the idea of the fundraising. The BIA, for example, is one organization has already said that they would be willing to put some money towards it if they decided to fundraise. So I think our local organizations would help us out there, and people want to see that bridge done. So I think we need to keep moving ahead and do it. And however we do the fundraising, that's something we need to decide on. But well, fundraise, or whether it's putting your donations, like it's all the same thing. It's putting money towards it other than tax base. But I think we need to go ahead with Brent's plan and get it done.
Okay. Mr. Bell. John?
Yeah, real quick, Brent, what did you allow in your budget for this process? And I think it's over a 2-year span, if I'm not mistaken. What were the numbers that you used?
The original engineer's estimate that I presented to council back, was last fall, I believe, was approximately 300,000. That's currently what I have in the budget right now. Yeah, if you recall, I didn't borrow. I transferred money out of the bridge elements and moved part of it into that, and also moved a portion of the balance of the funds into bridge repairs. So I'm hoping to still forego and go out there and do hopefully a good couple more projects this year. But no, that money is, I've stood at 300,000. That's what I've used, based on their and based on the engineer's estimate.
Estimate right now, okay, good, thanks, no, that helps a lot. I would somewhat agree. We've had a couple of, with Mr. Thompson, we had an elevator committee that tried to fundraise for an elevator in Durham Arena, and I know that we had to pay off the end portion of that, or that project would not have got done. And I would think Mr. Thompson's on the right track with the idea that people are somewhat tapped out, and as far as wanting to donate to projects. So if we're going to move this ahead, I think that the fundraising idea, I'm just not sure how successful that'll be, but I will be all for trying to help do that. So carry on.
Brent?
Just for council's information too, I've broken down this I broke the RFP into components that can be withdrawn from the proposal based on the prices that we receive. For example, the landscaping, the paving stone. If it comes in too expensive, that part can be pulled out and at least get the bridge done, and then in years ahead, come up with plans of beautifying the area, landscaping with paving stone, and having funds from the community to support if they wanted to finish that, you know. So I've broken down the components so that certain parts of it, of the bridge, can be taken out. So it's not a lump sum price. It's based on, I think, 4 or 5 components. So it gives us the opportunity to make sure we stay within budget.
Okay. All right, good discussion. I have a motion moved by Bev Cutting, second by Carol Lawrence. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves holding a special council meeting on July 31st, 2017, 1 p.m. for the purpose of discussing the request for proposals, RFP, for the Durham Walkway Bridge. Any questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. Further to that, Ms. Hergert has suggested that she would like to head up a group or try to put something together on fundraising. I've heard from Councillor Hutchison that the BIA are interested in helping out. I'm going to suggest, Rebecca, that get together and have start that type of a process, and we can have a bit of a report back on. I encourage you to get together with the BIA. Carol has indicated that the Durham girls have some funds, and how that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that they have some funds, and that's there already. So at our committee of the whole meeting, Mark, next Monday? Yep. We can get an update of how we're putting that together. Okay, Rebecca? Very good. Okay. Any other questions on that? Seeing none. Brent, what have you got?
Sorry, Your Worship. First part of that, I guess it got missed. I'm looking for councillors to sit on a part of the evaluation team including myself, that would review the bids that come in and select one of the the best proponent to come and then do a presentation at the committee of the whole. So I'm seeking a team of at least minimum of 3 councillors to sit on the team of evaluation committee, unless council has a different idea, but I don't want to do it myself because I think it needs to be objective, and the whole process needs to be transparent. So.
Okay. Do I have some volunteers other than Mr. Bell and Mrs. Lawrence and Ms. Cutting? There's 3 there. Council's fine with that? Sitting on the evaluation committee for the... Just on the, yep. Don't need to say it's a committee, it's just the evaluation... assist the director on the evaluation of the RFPs. Okay? Very good. All right, moving right along. Next one is on the, subject 2 is the list deck. We've got that in the bylaw. Coming forward, if there's any questions on that at this point in time. Mr. Bell.
Just one short one, Brent. What's that costing us right now, and how big an increase is that?
Increase is about 4,200, isn't it?
Yeah, I see the.
What we paid in 2016 was approximately 35,500. So the additional increase to $2 per cubic meter, and we're at the low end of that scale on the license agreement that was attached. Where, because I asked him, I said, "Oh, where are we paying more?" And he said, "No, you're at the low end." Sorry.
You're at the low end of the pricing. So the actual cost, based on the amount of cubic meters that we, again, it was just an assumption, based on 2016 volumes, I calculated out it's an additional $4,200 per annum.
So we paid 35.5 last year.
That's correct.
So it's going up over 10%
Yes, it is, sir.
in 1 year. And I got no problem with their
It's
business. or
over
how it's
2 year.
worked
It's over 2 year agreements for the balance of this year and all of 18.
in all of 18. Okay.
And history, or from my recollection of what I was told, is that the Georgian Bluffs biodigester costs substantially more than what Lystec was originally providing. And I know West Grey back in the day spread the sludge on fields. We can't do that anymore. And this was the cheaper option. So I'm looking at until I can find another option for our sludge.
No, I remember when we went with them, that was the reason. So it has worked out well, and you're happy with the service.
It's been great. As far as what Steve has told me, and American Water
Okay.
have indicated to me, it's been really good service. So
Good. Thank you.
Georgian Bluffs, Chatsworth have a biodigester. Yeah, that's what Brent was referring to there, Rebecca.
So did we get a quote from them recently?
again, Councillor Hergert, this is prior to my time. I think at the time that was looked at. Lystec came in with an option for West Grey to look at, and it was considerably lower than what they were originally paying for Georgian Bluff, so that's why they went with Lystec.
So how many years ago did we get a quote then? Maybe.
That would have been 2 and a bit by the looks of it.
2 years ago.
And then our contract with them will complete December 31st, 2018, is that right?
The contract for, yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Doug? Councillor Hudson?
Yeah, my understanding too, the biodigesters, they've been having some issues, and I don't think they've resolved all those issues yet. But it might be something that we want to look at in the future, especially with, my concern is, we've had an increase. What do we know why we have an increase in the number of the cost? Like, is it the number of tons that have increased, or Do we know why, Brent?
I think it's operational costs. To be
Okay, so
honest
it's
with
not
you.
tonnage that's increased, it's
No.
just operational?
No.
Okay.
No.
So then my other question is, do we know that that we're going to have the capacity, or they're going to have the capacity, or I guess they are, and we're at the low end, but we are going to expand when we have some development, which is coming. So that's something we're looking at, right, in terms of the capacity for our water treatment, our sewage treatment, all those things in terms of expansion.
Again, the LISTEC agreement expires in 2018. We're not going to be ramped up by then. We'll have maybe Mr. Tremble's smaller development online by that time. I can't see that having any significant impact on what we bring over for sludge at the current time. Eventually, once Sunvale gets fully developed, that will definitely have an impact on the sludge, but I'm hoping at that point in time we'll have a better option to pursue or consider at that time.
Okay, thanks, Brent. Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, I think that's about it, Brent. So that moves us down then. Mark, I figure we're down to bylaws.
Speak to the first one.
Okay, so we have a number of bylaws, one that has come back. So Brent, do you want to, or Mark, sorry, do you want to speak to this one?
Yeah, the council had indicated in the past meeting to get some more feedback in terms of the type of security that would be, council would look for in terms of perhaps as an option a performance bond, but I just was seeking extra direction from council. I did obviously communicate with a number of municipalities that provided what they require, so I'm not sure what else to do other than if council wishes me to broach the subject with a solicitor to provide a legal opinion in terms of whether or not the solicitor feels a performance bond would be a suitable alternative to a letter of credit. So I'm just looking for some direction there. The one other item I haven't broached is in one subdivision agreement in the last 4 or 5 years, the subdivision itself was phased for development, but with 4 phases. In that agreement, council only required securities for the first phase value of the work, and that was carried through the subsequent phases. I'm just wondering if that could potentially become an issue for quite a large-scale development that might be multiple phases and fairly high cost if you only obtain securities for one phase, and in the meantime, perhaps lots are sold in other phases and there's a default and you only have enough security for one of the phases as opposed to 4 or 5. I don't know if that would ever become an issue in terms of financial liability or encumbrance on the municipality. So perhaps that's something else I may want to vet through a lawyer if council's okay with that. So we would just defer this if that's...
Yeah, any questions, comments? Councillor Thompson. Rob?
I do agree with Mr. Turner. I think we should go through a lawyer in regards to more. I'd like to know more about this bond and the details in regards to it, and if it's easier for the developers to get a bond and then to go for the line of credit. I think it'd be worthwhile to have that information.
Okay. Good thought. Doug? Councillor Hutchison.
So basically the same question about the performance bond, so I'd like to know more on that. So I think it's worthwhile looking into some more.
Okay. So if we don't, Rebecca? Councillor Herget?
I just wanted to clarify, that we were going to ask for 50%, right? If it was less than 500,000.
That's the way this current
Yep.
is.
And then the remaining part, the other 50% would be a bond of some fashion if our solicitor liked that? Is that's not how it's reading here, no?
It's not how the bylaw reads. However, again, if a solicitor comes back and says a performance bond is a suitable alternative for security, then perhaps this bylaw would be amended accordingly.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, so Mark, I think you've got where council wants to go with that one, so we'll defer introducing bylaw 58 and go with the rest that are there. So we get further clarification. All right. Yeah, that's on the officials one. So we do have a number of bylaws. Let those go. Signatures.
63.
All right.
First one.
We're getting closer.
Speak to the security.
And 60. Okay, yep, go ahead. Mark.
I was going to mention concerning bylaw 58, the security issue. I thought it might be appropriate or fair if the solicitor might contact a local developer and ask for his opinion on what he feels is appropriate in securities and perhaps get his side of the story. And then the solicitor from there will provide a legal opinion. So if you're okay with that, just a matter of fairness, and so a developer has had some input to provide their side of the story, so to speak, if that's okay. No?
Think to work with that, Bev?
I have no problem with that, but I would like to remind council that we're here, that this is not a bylaw for a local developer. This is a bylaw for future development, whoever or wherever it may be in West Grey. And I don't want to see this bylaw being tailored or fashioned towards one person because he's a buddy. I just don't want to see that. This has to be a bylaw that is fair for everybody and fair for any builder that comes in, and is the security for the taxpayers, that we're not held holding the bag at the end of the day.
Very fair comment. Yep. Rebecca? Councillor Hergen?
I second that comment. That was lovely. Just curious, is there a developer that we are looking at? Or would we kind of shy away from a developer as it could be a conflict for them?
Mark, you want to comment?
Perhaps in retrospect, I should have been quiet, and perhaps I can communicate generally what some of the concerns are that we had heard from the past in terms of securities.
Rob? Councillor
I was going to suggest maybe when you're speaking to the lawyer, maybe they can consult with a contractor well outside of West Grey in another area of the province and get their feedback, someone that's not familiar with this area.
I'll communicate if the solicitor thinks it's appropriate to do so.
Okay, that sounds better. Okay. All right, we're down to bylaws, and we'll start with bylaw number 60. Moved by Rob Thompson, seconded by John A. Bell. Be it resolved that bylaw number 60, 2017, being a bylaw to amend ice rental rates, fees, and charges, bylaw number 40, 2014, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed as amended and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, deputy clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. And yeah, that amended part was the shinny. I think that's what the amended here was, that the per person, $5 per person, be at both arenas. I think it was not at, it was just on Durham, and the idea was it was to be at both Normanby and Durham on that level. Okay? So that was the amended portion. Any other questions on the motion? Doug? Councillor Hodgson.
Just point of clarification, under the Durham Community Centre Hall rental 315 This is page 86. 315, and then hall rental for first hour at 125 per hour. So presumably that 315 is for the day? Is that, how that reads? And then if you don't want it for the day, you can rent it by the hour, so, okay.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify that.
But, Mr. Mayor, it's to a maximum of 3 hours. Over 3 hours, you pay the daily rate.
Yeah, up to 3 hour max, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you wanted it 2, you could rent it by the hour for 2 hours. Okay? All right. Any other questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Yeah. The next bylaw, number 60, is recommended by Planning Committee. I have a motion moved by Carol Lawrence, seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that bylaw number 61, 2017, being a bylaw to rezone part lots 8 and 9, concession 9, former township of Glenelg, Wren and Guthrie Wren, ZA 0317B 12, 2016, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, deputy clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. As I said, this one's being recommended from the Planning Committee for adoption. Any other questions or comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. The next one, bylaw number 62, has been recommended by the Planning Committee for adoption. Was moved by John A. Bell, seconded by Doug Hutchison. Be it resolved that bylaw number 62, 2017, being a bylaw, housekeeping bylaw, to rezone Plan 500 Park Part Lot 12 and 13, 655 Sadler Street East, former town of Durham, 1872992 Ontario Limited, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, deputy clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. And as I said, this one was recommended by the Planning Committee as well, too. Any other questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. And bylaw number 63, moved by R. Hergert, seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that bylaw number 63, 2017, being a bylaw to provide for the adoption of estimates of all sums required during the year to strike the tax rates and to provide for penalty and interest default of payment thereof for the year 2017, repeals bylaw number 55, 2017, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, deputy clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. This was the one that the the Director of Finance Treasurer had commented on the adjustment of those commercial rates. Doug, Councillor Hutchison.
Just a comment, and under the commercial, and we've talked about this before, but under the commercial rates, I'd like to see us look into what other municipalities are doing, because there is some movement out there to put a little pressure on people who are sitting on vacant commercial property, especially like empty storefronts in downtowns in different communities, putting some kind of pressure on them to actually do something rather than getting a tax break based on sitting vacant versus someone who's paying the full rate and having to run a business. So I'd like to see, maybe we do a little research, find out what other people are doing, because there is some movement on that, and maybe we can follow suit down the road.
Okay, thank you. And I do agree with you, certainly with your comments, and we'll do that before we get them struck for the next following year. Good comment, Doug. Okay, on this one, any other comments or questions on the motion? Call it. Yes.
Purposes, was that recommended? Thank you, Your Worship, and I apologize. Just for clarification purpose for myself, was that direction from council to have a report come back to council in regards to vacant storefronts?
I'm thinking that, are you looking to make that as kinds of a recommendation or direction? Mark's got not a note of it here, and I think maybe going back to discuss with the treasurer and see what we want to do. Not for this year, but going forward, so we'll have
Right
it
on. Okay.
coming forward at a following either committee of the whole meeting or, and what work we want to have done on that.
Yeah, if you're looking for a report on that issue back for next Monday, that's not going to happen.
No, I don't think that that's what Councillor Hutchison, but into the following year before we set the rates for 2018.
Thank you. And Clerk Mark is going to look after talking with the treasurer. He and I will look after talking to the treasurer.
Yep, very good. Councillor Cutting. Bev?
What could maybe happen, though, is to get the areas that are doing something with the vacant stores and see what they're doing. I think that would be important, so we have some sort of, not in reinventing the wheel, but having a sort of a cross-section of what some of the other municipalities are doing, and we can pick and choose what we feel is the best.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's, Mark, in talking with Carrie, and we have talked about that a little bit. There are, as Doug has said, it's some of the economic development and other strategies of going forward. So, yeah, follow up. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Mayor Mark. Bylaw number 64 deals with appointments. I'll put it on the table first, Mark, and then we can speak to it. Have it moved by Rob Thompson, seconded by Doug Hutchison. Be it resolved that bylaw number 64, 2017, being a bylaw to appoint officials and citizens to various committees, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed as amended and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, deputy clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Comments? Mark?
Yes, so again, just to reiterate the changes, Jim Atkinson has been appointed to the Durham Cemetery Board. Chris Kennedy has been added to the West Grey Hanover Police Services Joint Steering Committee. Jess Farquharson has been added to the Normanby Recreation Advisory Volunteer Subcommittee. And I did get a request from Councillor Lawrence to revert the change. It was initially requested to rescind the appointment of Wayne Peffer on the Normanby Rec Advisory Committee, and then to appoint Mr. Peffer to the Volunteer Subcommittee, and then to appoint Sherry Peffer to the committee, and then to rescind the appointment of Sherry Peffer to the Volunteer Subcommittee. However, it's been requested that those changes not be made at this point.
Thank you, and to make it very simple, third line down where it reads Sherry Peffer would read Wayne Peffer, and this is on Normanby Rec Advisory Committee.
Yeah.
And on the subcommittee, second line up at the end where it says Wayne Peffer, it would now read Sherry Peffer. So it's just a switch of the names.
Yeah. Okay.
Those changes haven't been made yet, obviously.
Rebecca?
So just curious, we had a discussion several months ago about whether or not all the people on the committee have, can you speak to that?
You're talking the accessibility. And I was going to put a section in the bylaw, but it was kind of problematic because there's joint boards on this committee. So I was having some difficulty wording it. It's easier on a resolution when we're pointing just to our own committees, but we can't really make the joint, like the Brockton representatives on the joint Elmwood Community Center Board do their accessibility for West Grey, because I assume they might have their own for Brockton. So we're aware of that. I'll look into that, see how there might be able to wordsmith it, but I'm glad you brought that up because it was something, and I do going to try to remind it whenever it's done by resolution. Throughout the year, I try to do them by resolution where they're appointed, and then I update it when I can through an updated bylaw every year. However, when there's a rescinding of an appointment, I have to do that by bylaw. So that's the reason for this bylaw. But thanks for bringing that up.
Okay. Carol?
I'd just like to point out that both Normanby and Newstead have completed theirs and have signed off. I don't know about Durham, but I imagine it's done too, so.
On the rec committees.
The rec committees are done. As far as Ellenwood, that was done through Brockton. Okay. In fact, I even had it, so. No, I did it for West Cray, but I did it with Brockton.
Okay. All right, we'll keep that updated and aware. Any other comments or questions? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Bylaw number 65 is dealing with the Listec bylaw that Public Works was talking about. I have a motion moved by R. Herget, seconded by Carol Lawrence. Be it resolved that bylaw number 65, 2017, being a bylaw to enter into a letter agreement for biosolids transportation, processing, storage, and marketing between the Municipality of West Grey and Listec International, Inc., be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, deputy clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any other questions or comments on this motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Very good. And bylaw number 66 is the confirming. It's moved by John A. Bell, seconded by Rob Thompson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 66, 2017, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the June 19, 2017 council meeting, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, deputy clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any questions or comments on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. Whoops. Now, Mark, we'll go back to the agenda, and we've got to be down bylaws, new business. Rebecca. Councillor Herget, go ahead.
So a couple meetings ago, June 5th, I believe, we discussed trail marking and signage and so on. Cowan Insurance was here, hoping to get something moving there. Can we get a committee together? What are our options there?
I have spoke to Cowan's. I know Brent was at a Cowan signage workshop a month ago, give or take, and Cowan's has indicated that they will do that specifically for West Grey at when we can get it put together. So for the parks and any other, for the Parks Committee as a whole, and any other individuals that we have that want to join in on that, they will do that for us. Now it's a matter of when we want to go ahead, what's the best time. So what are we looking at, Bev?
Well, I wouldn't say right now, because the Parks Committee is right up to their eyeballs in flowers and soil and planting, and so maybe July. Maybe sometime in July would be.
Fine by me, as I said.
So let me, at the next Parks Committee, I'll ask when people have some time. We'll see if we can set it up for sometime in July during a
And in talking with Cowan's, and it was Tony that I was talking to, probably be, an hour and a half, 2 hours would be the session timing of that. Brent, anything further to add?
Sorry, I'm just a bit confused. You're talking about just setting up first a meeting to discuss the signage requirements on trails and roads, or are you looking at engaging the services of Cowan's, or a proponent or a consultant that works on behalf of Cowan's, to come in and do an actual appraisal of all our signage?
No,
I'm sorry.
just to make sure that the signage on the trails that have been
Is
constructed, which is just a few trails, to make sure that our signage is complete for insurance purposes, for walkers and whoever's doing what. It's basically that, not complete signage, no, just the trails.
Okay.
So maybe that presentation that you saw might be appropriate to give to the Parks Committee, so that we have an idea.
Actually, there was 2 presentations. One was on trails, and the other one was on roads. I went to the roads one.
Oh,
I apologize. I did not go to the full day workshop. I went to they had 2 workshops, and I felt it was
well,
prudent.
maybe if you could speak to them, maybe we could get them to come up and do a trails one specifically. We don't need the roads, obviously. And just,
It would be good for you to see the roads one, too.
well, you go right ahead.
You've got it, Brent.
Well, we're doing the trails right now, Brett. And just see if they would come up and maybe give us some discussion and just guide us to make sure we're doing the right thing. But wait don't make any plans. I have a July 3rd, I have a Parks meeting. We'll discuss it then. They're too busy right now to do anything like that. So, and Steve is off with surgery, and Trish is on crutches, and they still managed to do all kinds of work. So it's been pretty amazing, but I don't want to overstress them at this point.
Doug? Councillor Hudson?
Yeah, I was also at one of their workshops for the trails, and they do have a good video presentation too, which would be, I think would be worthwhile showing council if they would bring that forward. They also mentioned that they would actually come and go on the trails and walk through some of the trails to say, this is what you need and this is a problem, so on. So they're very good that way. I don't think they would act as a consultant, like they don't have to have I don't think there's a big charge, put it that way, for them to come and do that, because we're using their services, but I would hope not anyways, so. But they seem friendly to do that.
Yeah, talking to Tony, no, there wasn't going to be, 6, if we had 6 to 8 people or up to 10, and run through a morning and, go along on the trail, would be one of that type of interaction with them. So I think we can get that set up sometime in the next month, give or take, when we're available, and they said that they had, Tony thought that they'd be able to make themselves available as well too, so we'll get that one going in action. Okay, Rebecca?
As you may know, the property standards meets this week, and Mr. Tremble was in a couple weeks ago and was asking for some enforcement mechanism. Do we have any way of knowing what all the options are for the Property Standards Committee? There are several properties that we know blighted, they're not in the best interest of our municipality. They don't look great, they're not safe. We should give them the tools to enforce the bylaws. So they're meeting this week.
Larry? We'll let Larry speak.
No, go ahead, Larry.
No.
Your Worship, I had a meeting with the bylaw enforcement officer last Friday, and I spoke to her in regards to this matter. She feels she has the tools to be able to accomplish the job. It's just the process. A lot of people keep harping away about certain properties. Those properties have been done. Everything that could be done under property standards has been done. It takes a structural engineer to have properties taken down, okay? And there needs to be a reason to call someone in to look at that, usually human safety. The one property that we're talking about, which is close to and near and dear to me, does not have human occupation and has not had human occupation for at least the last, I would say, several years, if not longer than that. So in order to move on that, it's very difficult to move on that, especially when you're dealing with a executor, okay? In speaking with her directly, she's done as much as she can on that property. The next step is to get a structural engineer and have them take a look at the building itself. In regards to other issues, she has been following up. Your quarterly report is due on June 30th, so you'll be getting an update on a number of projects that she's working on. And perhaps I could even have her in attendance if you have any specific questions you wish to ask her directly. I was satisfied after our meeting that she's qualified. She has significant work to do without going out looking for work. And every time we turn around, someone has a new property or new issue that they want taken care of yesterday. It does take time. There's a process, and we are following those processes, and we are doing things legally. So that's an update from the bylaw enforcement officer as of last Friday.
Okay, Doug? Councillor House?
And just to further that, I think it's worthwhile, because we all deal with this issue. There was just something recently coming out of Kitchener where there actually, there is some push to try to change some of the rules and regulations. And Kitchener, what they're doing is they're trying to prevent issues going to the courts by using fines. So I don't know how all that works, but that was one of the things they come up with. The other thing they were looking at is putting a time limit so that after so long, if the building is derelict and uninhabited, then they're actually going in and after 2 or 3 years and taking the building down and then charging back. So there are some changes coming with property standards. So I think it's worthwhile just keeping tabs on what's happening out there. And Kitchener is one of the ones I just heard recently in the news that's making some changes because we all deal with the issues. And I agree, Larry. I think we're making some progress, and it does take time. So that's good.
Mark?
Yes, further to that, Councillor Hutchison, there are a number of municipalities that have passed what they call a tidy yards bylaw, and that is through a fine process. So I believe Grey Highlands had initiated some work, and we're kind of waiting from there to see how that's developed. There have been a few changes, however, in staffing at Grey Highlands, so that's maybe slowed it down somewhat, but that is an alternative we're looking at to provide better enforcement and quicken the pace of enforcement as well.
Okay. So I think, Councillor Herget, it gets caught in some of that legal ease that if you don't do it, every I is dotted and T is crossed, it gets tossed, and then you're way back behind the 8 ball again. So it's somewhat frustrating. I do know that to the public out there, but do know that we are pushing it as far and as fast as we can to get the results that the community as a whole is looking for. So we're trying. Rebecca?
Does that mean that we will look into a tidy yards bylaw? Can we look into a tidy yards bylaw?
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, we are in fact looking at that. With the 3 or 4 municipalities involved, we'd like to again make that uniform like the property standards bylaw is now. So we are looking, basically Grey Highlands kind of is the lead with their building department staff there as property standards. So we're hoping perhaps in the next few months that something might come about that way. But I do have a draft in my office, and we're waiting for some further direction from Grey Highlands. So hope to report back in some time near future on that.
Larry?
Just also to point out too, it wasn't that long ago that there was no enforcement of property standards in this community. And we, in the last year, have, in my opinion, gone head and shoulders above. We are actually enforcing it now. We're out and doing the best we can with the people involved. So we're trying, and we're doing the best we can, and we are moving forward on a number of fronts. Some that people may not even see because they're not necessarily on the main street, or they're not necessarily on one of the main thoroughfares. But there is a lot of work being done, and we do track it now, and we do follow up. So hopefully that'll clarify a lot of concerns with people as well.
So I think that with that in mind for our next committee of the whole meeting, having our property standards officer come and maybe give us a bit of an update. I do caution that if we do get into specific properties, that would be a reason for us to go to closed if we do get down into that finite discussion. But on a general thing, maybe have her come and we'll look, hopefully availability at the next committee of the whole meeting to give us an update and some further discussion on it at that point. John, you have a question?
I just wondered, Larry, is this something that we could put or shove together with your fellow CAOs on the Joint Building Services Committee? Is this something that, find out what they're doing? I guess we know what Great Highlands is doing. Do we know anything about Southgate or Chatsworth or not?
Doing.
As far as property standards go?
I know that our bylaw enforcement officer is contracted to Chatsworth as well and does work with Southgate, but I'm just not sure to what capacity. So I can speak with my 4 colleagues if that's acceptable.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Other new business? Bev? No, go ahead, Bev. Then we'll Mark.
Yeah, I would like to just, I guess, inform council that this is National Pollinator Week this week, with the huge problem of the bees and the bee decline, et cetera, et cetera. This is actually the week which is declared on, I don't know if it's, I guess it's national, it's Canada.
Yeah, it's
That's
Canadian.
considered Pollinator Week, and the Parks Committee, I meant to bring, or I didn't mean to bring this up, I was going to bring this up at the Committee of the Whole, but then, of course, Committee of the Whole went so long, I didn't have a chance. So I would like to see if council would accept a notice of motion to declare this as National Pollinator Week and tell everybody to go out and spread some wildflowers on the ditch, or whatever. Plant milkweed. Actually, that's for butterflies, so well, we want, yeah.
As long as no one gets
Yeah,
hurt. The
exactly.
bees.
To endorse, so you want to put forward a notice of motion, so.
Yes,
Okay.
to endorse National Pollinator Week in West Grey.
Yeah.
And maybe we could put it on the sign, Larry, just that this is National Pollinator Week. And also, there's one other thing. Could I continue for a moment?
Before we get to that one, can we speak to this one, Fruit Mark?
Sure.
So I'll leave that to council's discretion, but the policy or practice of council is to, if there's any requests for declarations, that it typically would go under miscellaneous correspondence, and then it would be up to council to request it be pulled for consideration for a resolution. So that is typically how it's done, but if council wishes to do a direct motion, that's, I guess, within their mandate.
Or purvey. Okay, yep. So we will bring that one, I think Councillor Cutting wants to bring this one forward in not usual way, but in this way as well. And it has been done before, so we'll see how it goes. Secondly, Bev.
Yes, I just want to ensure that this Committee of the Whole coming up on Monday, that there is time for council reports on the committees and discussion, because I had several things last week that this was one of them, and there is another one that needs to be discussed. Just that reports are being brought forward and there's time for discussion, as opposed to so much else being on the Committee of the Whole that we don't seem to get to actually what the Committee of the Whole is for. So I just want to make sure that either we have 2 days set aside, that one is for the committees and one is for discussion around the committees or things that need to be done, and another day for whatever, or that there is time, there's allotted time for the committees and what their discussions are.
Okay, John?
Well, we're having a little discussion among the meeting down in this corner. How many delegations are we expecting at the next Committee of the Whole? And just, I think that, well, if there's one, maybe there should be a maximum of 2, but sometimes we get delegations take out a long time, and they sometimes run over their allotted timelines. So with that in mind, I think if we could slow that up a little bit, sometimes maybe we get more business done. Just my view.
Okay. Mark's trying to find it here, but he's having difficulty. Rob?
I think the issue that Councillor Cuddy is referring to is, but you booked a police services board meeting at 3 o'clock, and that, we had to rush everybody, the two of you had left us, and we just rushed right through it and left half of it. So if you can move your police board meeting to another date, it would help a lot.
That was,
That was a special meeting.
yeah. But we'll make that. Rob? No, Mark, sorry. Rob's on this side, you're done? Mark?
Okay, so there's a few, I don't have an agenda started for June 26th, the committee of the whole meeting, so that means there's no delegations yet. However, the procedural bylaw says that if they're requested, they're allowed up to 3 delegations, so to not permit a delegation or up to 3 delegations would be problematic for me to make that decision. I guess I could get that direction from council if that's the direction council wishes to limit it. The other issue, I wasn't aware of the police service board meeting. The other issue is there is a special committee of adjustment meeting for June 26th, starting at 1 o'clock to about 2 o'clock, because there are 3 minor variance applications, and I know I am sensitive to doing that. However, in the Planning Act, whenever you get a minor variance application, you have only 30 days to hold a public meeting when you receive that application. So in order to meet those timelines, I had to make that for that 26th meeting. Otherwise, it would have been too late, and I didn't have time to come to council for another day for a delegation. So I apologize, but I had to put that in that same day.
Okay. Rob?
Just to add to that, Mark, if we reduce the delegations down to 2 and keep them at 15 minutes, then you'd have time for your planning, and we could do that. That's very important.
If that's
More
direction
so
from
than-
council, I'll limit it to
Yeah.
2. It's not up to my purvey to
Yeah, I
limit
know,
the time frames.
That's just a suggestion for me, if we reduce it to 2 and keep them at 15 minutes instead of, some of them go for an hour, and there's no need of it.
Okay. Carol?
Well, I just wanted to ask, I understand our procedure bylaw allows 3 delegations at our council meetings. I don't recall that it said that for committee of the whole. Because committee of the whole, personally, I don't think we should have any delegations unless it's something to do with what we're discussing that day. Because we have lost the whole reason that we have committee of the whole, which is it's a more informal atmosphere session where we can discuss from the various committees that don't come up and isn't appropriate to come up during council. But we've kind of, I mean, Public Works takes a long time, and it's important, and we need to know that. Maybe we need to have a separate half-day for Public Works or something, and one day to Committee of the Whole, that we can, because mostly we rush through it. When we get to committees, we don't have any time left. So we're just rushing through and only touching on a very few things, but.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mark.
And the procedural bylaw does apply both to council and committee meetings. So it is pertinent to committee of the whole meetings.
Then it's our procedural bylaw. That's something we can look at and we can change.
Yes? Okay. We've got to hold the focus. And I guess here we are at this point in time, even at council, now we're off on focus here on this one. So how easily it is, but to get the work done, the time commitment in committee of the whole, whether we go with on planning, which we have on the second Monday in the afternoon, maybe we have that we have committee of the whole in the morning and make that a commitment for that day as well too.
I think it would be worth trying. Doesn't necessarily have to be forever, but it certainly, if there's a lot going on, and it seems this time of year there is a lot going on, not so much in the winter months, maybe we don't need it then. Maybe
Yep.
we just need it for the next 4 months or 5 months.
So that will be a portion to put on for committee of the whole on Monday. If we have time. If we have time. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, fine. But we have to be cutting on those delegations. Okay? Larry? Yes?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to remind council that the AMO conference is coming up in August this year. The last day to apply for delegations is on the 28th of June, and I'll be bringing a report to Monday's meeting. Hopefully we can pick a few delegations we wish to participate in. I have been in contact with my colleagues around the county, and I do have some information on applications that they have made for delegations as well, and I'll summarize that for you in a report that'll come out next Monday. So just put your thinking caps on if there's certain specific delegations you wish to attempt, or if there's even an MP you wish to meet with, we can probably accommodate that since we will be in Ottawa, Your Worship. So.
We'll be in Ottawa. It is in August, but I'm not sure that the House will be sitting, so we'll find out. Mark, new business.
I have a couple items of new business. The West Grey Canada 150 Committee has passed 2 resolutions which are seeking support of. The first is a motion recommending that approval to pay for 12 large posters printed at a total cost of $24 plus tax to the bookstore, and then a recommendation to approve a purchase of a maximum, approve basically hiring a videographer at a maximum cost of $750 for, I guess, videoing the July 1st, 2017 Canada Day celebrations. And part of that $750, each community will receive a memory stick of that video for their own purposes to review and appreciate. So I do have that all in one motion, if council would entertain that as a direct motion. I don't know if there's any questions before then, or...
Anything further comment on that, Doug?
Okay, so just to clarify, yeah, the request is to videotape the parade with an auditory storyline to go along with it, so that they'll be able to identify who the floats are and whatnot, and also to take some video of the other activities going on later that day. So some of the games or some of the music and whatever. They did try to use Adam, which is our number one man, but he was busy. So the gentleman they're looking at right now is Kirk Scott, whose name's well known in that business. But there's also some discussion that they may be able to get a volunteer to do it at a cheaper rate. So they just wanted to put that in there, that that was Kirk Scott's cost to do it, to do the editing and put it together and give copies so that people could make other copies if they want to, and also to get it on our website for the municipality. But if they can get a volunteer to do it at a lesser rate, then that cost wouldn't be as much. So it will come out of the remaining monies that we have still in our Canada 150. We still have a bit of money that we're working with for advertising and this type of thing, and maybe a few other things that'll happen before the end of the year.
Okay.
And the second item is Randy Corfield, the West Grey Soccer Club field and equipment supervisor, had come to the office, I believe, Friday and discussed an exciting proposal to add a sign at the West Grey, or the Durham soccer field. So because of the tight time frames, I had indicated if he provided a letter and some sketches, I would, with council's indulgence, I would present this to council this evening and get their input. And I guess Mr. Corfield and the West Grey Soccer Club is looking for council's consideration of passing a motion to basically approve the proposed new sign, and also noting that they also wish to provide some plantings around the new sign, that they would work with the Durham Horticultural Society, and after the plantings would be done with council's okay, they would also make sure that the plantings are maintained by the West Grey Soccer Club, or at least they would ensure that's looked after.
Somebody's looking at it.
So I don't know if there's any comments there, but I do have a resolution if council wishes to entertain it as a direct motion.
Okay. So to introduce those, 1, 2, what are we up to? 3? We have the tandem truck, soccer club.
West Grey Canada 150.
West Grey Canada 150, and I believe Councillor Cutting had one as well too, to endorse the pollinator as well. So that'll be 4. Anything, any other questions? I would need 2/3 majority to introduce those 4 motions. All those in favor of introducing? Any opposed? All right. I have. Declare that we got the 2/3 majority for those notice of motions or direct motions. Pass those out to get them moved and seconded. Some of them may already be there.
Is this the last one? First one will be Canada, we have 50, and then the truck.
Yeah.
Second one,
Which one do we got first?
Canada Day.
Canada Day
Canada
first.
150.
Okay. Okay, so we've got 4 motions, notice of motions. The first one is motion moved by Rob Thompson, seconded by Doug Hutchison. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves the printing of 12 large posters at a cost of $24 plus taxes from the bookstore and approves hiring a videographer at a maximum cost of $750 for the July 1st, 2017 Canada Day celebrations, include memory sticks, to be provided to each community as recommended by the West Grey Canada 150 Committee. And as Doug has said, the funding would come from their, out of their budgeted funds that are there already. Okay? Any other questions or comments on that motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. Bev?
Is this videographer only doing Durham's, or are they doing all of the communities' 150 celebrations?
They're only doing the July 1st day because the July 1st day is a Canada 150 celebration for all of West Grey. So that was right from the start. We said that because that was the focus, that the July 1st day, the West Grey Lions Club was doing the fireworks, and none of the other communities are doing fireworks. So we said, well, that would be a community, a West Grey celebration, and then the other communities are doing something of their own nature, but on a smaller scale for their communities. So yes, so no, they aren't doing a video unless they do a video on their own, but this will be just for the parade for the July 1st day and festivities.
Okay. All right. So the second motion was the truck purchase that Ms. Mighton was speaking of. I have a motion moved by R. Herget, seconded by C. Lawrence. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves the payment to All Truck International Truck Centres for the 2018 tandem truck in the amount of $163,641.02. Any other questions or comments on this motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. And that was within your budget. I'll just add that, Brent, was within budget for the 2017. The next one was is on the West Grey Soccer Club for their sign and flowers, landscaping around the sign. I believe, Randy, is what this is. I have a motion moved by John A. Bell, seconded by Rob Thompson. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves the proposed new sign designating the West Grey Soccer Club to be located at the soccer fields in Durham, as outlined in the letter dated June 19, 2017 from the West Grey Soccer Club, and at the sole cost of the West Grey Soccer Club. And further, that that Council approves plantings around the new sign to be provided by the West Grey Soccer Club and the Durham Horticultural Society, with the ongoing maintenance of the plantings to be responsibility of the West Grey Soccer Club. Any questions or comments on this? Doug, Councillor Hutchinson.
I just like to say to Randy that compliment on the work that you've done in the soccer field so far. They look great. Looks like you're getting full use this year with all the fields now. Yeah. And I can remember years and years and years ago, there was a sign at the soccer field, but with the flagpole right at the front there, but that's been removed now, hasn't it, Randy? Yes, right, okay.
The expansion, we had to remove that, and as of actually on the weekend, the new flag is now hanging on the end of the pavilion. So that's our new flagpole.
Okay, good.
Version.
Right, so yeah.
Yes, and I'll convey those
Right.
sentiments back to our executive.
Right. So that would be Manuel Ramirez was the one that originally built that sign and put the pole up there. So he did a lot of work. He was one of the early gentlemen that worked on that. But yeah, the field looks good, and I think this would be a great addition with the signage there and the flowers and whatnot. So things look good. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. If I may just expand a little on that.
Please.
I don't know if you can be there, but this is fine. Sorry, I should be standing up there. Apologies.
Maybe you can just use that mic there, Randy. You're big.
Yeah, no, you don't have, that's close enough, yeah.
Okay, enough said, thank you. Just kidding. No, I would like to expand a little bit on that, in that, what that application or request for you to review that is, that signage is in fact the final piece of the whole puzzle that we've been putting together here over the last 2 years. And that'll be, the invoices for that will be submitted to Kerry and done that. And so that'll finalize that project. Our intention here with that request is, and I don't know if you all got a copy of that fine artwork that yours truly did. I think artwork is a very loose term in that, but I think you get the gist of where it is and located. Our concern there is, it is municipal property. I think everyone in the room is familiar with the situation, and that the West Grey Soccer Club does look after that property. We cut the grass, we look after the weed trimming and so on and so forth. Because it's West Grey Municipality property, we want to be making sure that because of that design, you as a whole and the municipality doesn't have any concerns as far as our big one, same as in soccer, is liability. And we don't want kids getting hurt either on the field during play or on the field or on the property involved around, because especially our Saturday morning programs, I don't know if any of you have driven by the soccer field on Saturday mornings, but it can be a little bit of a human zoo. But in a good way, but as we all know, kids from this high and up like to climb on things. So I just want to make sure that we're covering our bases, and if anybody has any concerns or sentiments that they want to forward to us during the construction, that they please let us know now. The sign is in order process right now. It's a 6-foot diameter aluminum, I think what they call sign foam. So a lot of the more, I'm going to use the word modern signs that storefronts and so on use. It's a 3-dimensional sign. It's going to have our West Grey Soccer Club logo. It's 6-foot diameter, obviously in the shape of a soccer ball, designed that way, maple leaf on it, and so on. So we're trying to put the last piece of the puzzle here to fit in with our overall focus, if you will. Our executive was getting tired of the way our soccer field looked. Not to put down the hard work and efforts from the past, because that was obviously instrumental in getting the whole soccer program going in West Grey. But we got tired of looking at long grass and breeding mosquitoes and having 4-year-olds run out there and swatting bugs and so on and so forth, and parents watching with little ones in strollers. And so we have some more things we want to do. In terms of the slopes, when we did the excavation work, we got rid of a lot of the overburden areas and the long grass and so on. We have slopes again because of the nature of the property, and we'd like to invite, and I'm choosing my words carefully here, we are inviting the Horticultural Society to come on board with us, because planting and shrubbery and gardening is their forte. Our forte is putting a soccer program together for the kids of West Grey. Yes, we have volunteers that can help with that, who are looking to follow in with our volunteer program. But at the end of the day, I don't have a green thumb, and not many of us do, and everybody's busy. And here we have a group that's what their focus is, and we'd like to pull on their knowledge and pull on their abilities to put forth a complete package for the property. It will take time. It's not a let's get it all done in 2 months. It's going to take several years perhaps, but we're looking at new tree plantings. We're looking at maybe wildflowers for the slopes. Not that we're wanting to encourage bees and 4-year-olds on the same chunk of land, but that's what we're getting at. We want to make it so that as a whole we can look at the property from the road and all be proud of it and see that it's fence line to fence line, as the saying goes, a nice, attractive addition to the town of Durham. And that's what we're trying to do. So we've got lots of nice flat green grass. Our water system works beautifully. It's worked even better this past week, but I didn't have to run it. But the irrigation system that we put in works really well. It really came together, and again, I want to use this opportunity to thank council for their assistance, and both financially and verbal support and so on. Everyone here, we really appreciate that. Our thrust here is to have a dedication ceremony in terms of a grand opening. We'd like to make note and a little bit of tribute in terms of some signage to the not just West Grey Council, and have you out obviously for a ribbon cutting ceremony and so on, but we also want to publicly thank the big key players who helped make this project viable, and not just the new field but also in the past. And we're putting something together, and I think Doug, you and I have talked about that briefly about that. And so that is, we were aiming for the July 1st, the Canada Day weekend. Our sign guy is, he's busy, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to pull that together, but, and I think at this point, we probably have to get you guys on the schedule a little sooner in order to put it on your agendas. But it is coming. I did want to mention tonight that it has not been forgotten, that we want to have a public thank you out there for everybody. So I hope I haven't rambled too much here. I hope it's a two-part thing I'm looking for. Is West Grey Municipality comfortable with what I proposed there in terms of location and signage and the design of it and so on? That's one. And secondly, is council fine and happy with West Grey Soccer Club overseeing and administrating the use of the Horticultural Society to help us and move forward and so on, with the understanding that we recognize that we do look after the maintenance there, and we will continue to do so regardless of whether the Horticultural Society is here with us today and not tomorrow or what have you. Okay?
Very good.
I think I'll quit now. So. I can see the look on Kevin's eyes. No. Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay. Comment, Bev. Councillor Cunningham.
I do have a concern. If your concern is for kids climbing, you have a stepping stone pattern of large stone here, which is just a jungle gym for little kids. If you don't want them to climb, you're going to have to change the design from the stepping stone to something else, or maybe eliminate the stone completely and just put the sign up, because that is just asking for kids to climb on it. I'm not sure.
Sorry. And that's a fair statement, and that's the exact concern that we had, and which was part and parcel why I wanted to come to you. It can't be the first design of its kind that ever happened in West Grey / Ontario, Canada, wherever. So how has it been addressed in the past, and what would be acceptable? We've looked at, the reason for the armor stone is to provide a substantial retaining wall because we're putting it into the hill, so we have to hold that dirt back. And secondly, we want to do a backdrop for the sign itself. We were going to put it on. Sorry?
Do you need 4 floors, or like 4 levels?
Well,
340, and I don't know if this is a proper addition.
it's close. No, it's close.
You actually need 4 cores too.
Well, the sign being, again, 6-foot diameter, slightly off the ground so you can see it, plantings and so on. To make it a proper backdrop, you'd need roughly 8 feet of stone behind it. And given the dimensions of the hill, it has to fit. We don't want it to look like some minuscule little thing in the corner of a hill. But we've considered a railing put on because, again, anyone who's driven by can see our blue rail, and it would fit in nicely with that. A little bit of blue metal railing, stepping also with it to keep kids from coming over the backside and so on. A full wall, sides right up. It's possible. Right. Sure. I don't really think the shape of it's going to make a difference because the dirt and the fill from the hill, from the backside, is going to be up to the height of the blocks, whether they be stepped or whether they be, a full, I'm going to say 8 feet as a solid wall. So they'll be holding the hill back.
Be built in.
So the fill from the hill will be, if you can picture a crescent-shaped wall with the fill and the hill coming right into the back of them.
Okay, so that actually, although it looks like stepping stones, it's not actually going, they won't be accessible.
They'll follow the contour of the hill. Right.
It won't be accessible to the kids to come up, and then there would be fill on top.
Well, it would actually because... Oh, okay, yeah. Right. Larry's suggesting flip the page to look at the other map. It gives you kind of more of an aerial view, so you can see that. And if you look, then if you can get a picture in your mind, forgetting the signage at the front, because yes, the kids will be able to walk up to the wall that way, but the greater access will be from the top side of the hill. They'll be able to walk right out onto the stones at whatever terraced level or what have you.
Therefore, that's the reason for the railing.
And that's why I'm considering a railing.
Which is probably good.
Right.
Doug?
Just a comment, Randy. When I looked at that at first, is it going to be tapered back? It's going to be tapered, sloped into the hill, is it not? Rather than straight up? Is it going to be tapered at all? Slanting back into the hill?
I wasn't really picturing it as a taper because that gives steps going in yet another direction, right?
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking in terms of, you see flower beds with signs and whatnot built into the side of a hill. So I thought that you were building it in to the side of the hill, which would prevent the actual being able to get onto the stones. But then there's going to be a slope there, that's all.
Right. So if you have your first layer of stones here and your second layer set back, you think as you back in the hill.
Tapered back in.
Our concern is that you walk up the end and then also walk up this way. So you get steps in 2 different directions. But
I don't know.
I don't want to make this part of the discussion onerous, but I don't want to have liability there for either of us, so.
Any further questions?
I guess my question, if I may, is has there been a wall constructed like this anywhere else in the municipality, and what steps are taken to minimize the liability repercussions?
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Wasn't there a proposal by Ayton recently? They wanted us to join in on a grant, and it was for the sign, the Ayton sign, and it was a bit of a curved situation. It didn't have the hill to contend with as.
It's just regular stone.
Yeah.
It's just only rock. They wanted.
That's in front of the arena, right?
No, I think it was out at their 8 and, grade 9 and 3.
These signs probably say, but that was just one flare of
Oh, yes, okay, sorry. I think the Randy and all the kids that are there, you've got that in mind that, the liability. I'm going to put it out there that we put the trust in that, you understand the concern and that is there, and there's been mitigating factors from all of what you've done down there. Have we got that in any sign? Go ahead, Rebecca.
Can we bring it up with our insurance people to sign it, or like what shape?
Maybe another question is this the best place for the sign? And, where you have to put these coursing stones in on levels to be, 4 or 5 high. Is this the best place, or is there just another place where they could put just the sign without stones? Maybe that's a thought.
Rob?
I know at my place I went through this 3 times, so with the retaining walls at the bottom of the driveway, they are stepping stones going up on the, unless you put huge cement portions of block, you're going to have that wall pushing that block over. That dirt is going to push that wall over on you. I went through all this, and I had a local contractor install where he had to lift the blocks with a bobcat. They're that heavy to control the wall from coming in on it. So I tried every size of block, but not to be a wet blanket or anything, but I think the liability is so huge, especially when you have so many children around the soccer field, that probably a sign alone would maybe be a better idea. Just to sign a loan without the blocks and move it to another location other than that retaining wall or that dirt wall, because they're going to walk off that and walk right over the edge of it, or even if you did put a railing on it, they're going to climb on the railing. So there's really no way of, I don't see any way of securing that so they can't jump over or fall off that wall. I think because of that, I would, because you're going to go through it probably 3 or 4 years, every 3 or 4 years replacing that wall, because it's going to be falling in, and or moving the sign to another location, and the liability is so huge. It's a lovely idea, but it's nice display, but I'd be concerned somebody's going to get hurt.
Rebecca?
I think if the stone were taken out, I think the idea of working together to, a combination of people working together to make something beautiful and put up the sign, as long as we reduce that liability for the blocks there, I think it'd be a great idea.
We discussed at length that signs on the platform of the hill, and just having a signage up there. And it really didn't get too far in terms of the appeal factor, because a sign just sticking up in midair is really not all that attractive. But
Maybe you just need to go back to your committee and tell them our concerns. And I think you can see these concerns, obviously, and see what they can come up with. Maybe there's just a simple, it's really their decision. Yes, it's our property, and yet they have to get permission to do this, but maybe it's a matter of going back to now that this has been discussed, going back to the committee and seeing what they come up with, other solutions.
All right.
So does the council feel that putting the railing along there isn't mitigating it enough? Is that what your thoughts are? From a liability standpoint, and I know you've said, okay, well, should we talk to an insurance? I've had my own business for years and years before, and the words they like to use are, have you taken every reasonable measure, right? That's their clause that they like to put in such things. And do you take every reasonable measure? And every one of us who has a home and has a porch or a deck, by law or the laws, the rules state anything over 2 feet requires a railing, and that railing need be a certain height. fair enough. And we're prepared for that because this wall is over 2 feet. And so if we put a railing on there, again, is that enough? Does the railing come down and then jut back so that kids can't climb up on one side or the other? And would that be sufficient to?
Way safer to just take the stones away, remove the railing, and move the sign. It's just too much.
Well, I would tend to agree. That would be way safer not to do the whole thing in the first place. No. But that's not an option for us because we have a certain, and I'm not trying to be rude, but we do have only a certain limited areas in which to do this. When we took on the project of expansion, we also had to take into account that extra fields means extra parking, extra vehicles, extra whatever. So we've had to really look at every available space there and what makes sense and where. And this hill that I'm talking about is the last remaining vacant piece where, because the other side of the things we have to consider are things like vandalism. And that's a real issue for us. It's a real issue for the ball diamonds. It's a real issue for that property, that field we used to use that is between the ball diamonds. We had to abandon that because we couldn't have kids running on that and twisting an ankle because it got repeatedly tore up by vehicles and doing donuts and so on and so forth. So vandalism is another issue. So just placing a sign up where somebody can get at it, and then so there's these issues. Sorry?
People can get it. I think what needs to be said here is that you came to us asking us whether we saw any liability or saw any concerns.
Sure.
And now we're giving you these liabilities and these concerns and asking you maybe to go back and just rethink this a little. And I think you need to go back to your committee and just, I can't see that wall with the step situation and trying to get railings and all that. It seems to me to be, that's just a huge issue, insurance-wise and liability-wise and everything, and it will be West Gray. You'll be named as well, but it will be West Gray as well if we approve this. I think you just take it back and see if you can rework it. Yeah.
Rob?
I just thought of something because we are doing it, or we have done it, the stairs going down to the kiddie pool off the main street. We decided to put plexiglass down that railing. It's a stairway with a railing, and then enter plexiglass sections in there so no one can fall through underneath the railing. I wonder if that's some way you could work something like that on your block work. I'm just concerned, I think you need to get huge blocks, and local contractors would help you with that, but if you were to put a railing in there, fill in those sections, make the railing fairly high, but enclose it on both sides so they can't access the top of the railing. Just an idea.
Well,
Doug?
the other thing that I need to come forward with, that is the other idea, the reason I wanted to ask those questions, Councillor Cutting, is that I wasn't trying to say, are you comfortable with it, and stopping there. I am asking the question, what other things have happened, and give me some examples of what other groups or the municipality itself has done with similar situations. There's lots of places where we've had to hold back dirt, we've had to hold back whatever with the retaining wall, and what steps are taken. So those are the ideas I was looking for. I definitely will go back to, and as an executive, we will discuss this in further detail. We have had many discussions already, but if you're telling me that we need to redesign, then I guess we'll have no opportunity or recourse but to redesign. So we'll take that back and do that.
Doug?
Yeah, that was just going to be my suggestion, Randy, is that take it back and maybe make a more detailed sketch and consider all the things that we've talked about here today in terms of the railing and the heights and whatnot, and see what you can come up with, and then bring it back. Like, I don't know if you have to bring it back to council or whether you take it to Brent and Larry or some of our staff and try to mitigate the dangers that are involved with it. So I think that's all we can do, is ask you to tighten this plan up and consider all the things that we've talked about and see what you can come up with. So,
yeah. Okay, that's fair enough.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say one thing. If you have a railing, the kids will swing on it. I don't care how, where it is or what. It's just,
Well, it wouldn't be
it's a
just a
kid
railing,
thing.
it would be a
You'd
railing
have to
with-
have it
with the-
enclosed because
with
otherwise
the
they,
laterals and so on, yeah. It would
I
be a
mean, they
fence.
do it at the arenas. We've taken care of that and they do it everywhere. You know,
Yeah,
It's a man-made monkey bar for godsend for them to play on. So you'd have to have it somehow that they didn't have access to the railing.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I'm probably a misnomer on my part. I didn't mean a railing per se, I meant a fence. So top, bottom rail with your vertical slats as you do on a typical porch deck and so on. Yeah, that's what I meant. But we will go back and look at that. On the other note of working with the Horticultural Society on this particular project and others, does council have any issues with that? Are they comfortable with our administrating that?
Hey, Rebecca?
I like that you brought a proposal forward, and I would expect that we would look forward to that at any time when we would be maybe a granting type idea. But I do know that there are quite a few people that have given feedback lately about flowers, whether they're planted or not. I appreciate Steve and Tricia's hard work. I don't feel like they have to do it alone. And I feel like there are lots of groups out. I know there's people in Ayton, there's the Durham Horticultural Society. There's people all over that want to plant flowers. I'm not trying to veer this conversation away, but there are quite a few people that do like gardening and would like to participate in the flower beds.
And
Yep.
volunteer with the parks.
Yep.
Tell them to come forward and
So-
volunteer, because we don't, they need to do that.
So some of the organizations, though, do prefer their own group, but I like the idea of accessing their knowledge and their willingness to do as well. So I think moving forward, we should have a similar idea of a presentation of what you'd like to do, and then we can all look at the liability of it and then move forward together.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, is that, so are you suggesting that each project that we bring forward from a planting standpoint need come before council, or? I guess what I was asking was, will council give West Grey Soccer Club the authority to make those decisions as an executive, which we do really now, but I was, after a preliminary meeting with the Horticultural Society, it was brought up that perhaps we need to get council's approval for the Horticultural Society to be doing such things because it is a municipal property. So I guess what I'm asking is, would council give West Grey Soccer Club a quick blurb on a piece of paper that says what I'm asking, in that specifically, that we, the West Grey Soccer Club, be permitted to work with and partner with this or any other group in order to improve, and I think I've spelled it out in the wording there, for the, I mean, obviously it can't detract from our soccer program, that's not our intent at all. It has to augment and beautify based on our soccer program. So,
Carol?
Well, I just wanted to say I see nothing wrong with partnering with the Horticulture Society, provided there's ongoing work and maintenance year after year by them. Because again, I'm sure you don't want to be deadheading flowers and weeding and that kind of stuff.
Actually, they said they would.
well, we would, and
I
that's
know
why-
that says that, and
Yep.
it starts out great, and it's happened so many times, not with the soccer, but
No, and
you know,
I understood that's
That-
how
yeah.
certain projects have gone in the past, which is why I put in there, and from our executive, it is, we are saying that we'll either pressure them or we are prepared to do it, because we have our own volunteers who are looking for volunteer hours as well. So either, but just allowing us to administrate
I
that.
think we've introduced this, haven't we? Yep. So we've introduced the motion. My thought is to work with our insurance provider and/or an individual that's gone through some of the insurance, being Brent, But in the meantime, I think we've got to table this motion. Or I would look forward to somebody tabling the motion and a little bit of direction coming forward after that happens. Does somebody got their fingers coming up here? Thank you. Rebecca, move to table. John will second that to table this, and then we'll give further direction after we've settled that. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Herget, second by Deputy Mayor Bell. Be resolved the Council of Municipality hereby tables resolution 23817. Thank you. Nope. Nope. Okay. Motion to table without discussion. All those in favor of tabling? That means that the motion is tabled. I'm going to say, Randy, get together with, somebody, yep. Get together with, come back with a little bit better idea on what we're going to do to mitigate some of the liability issues around the sign. And after hearing the conversation here, either working with Brent and or even giving our insurance provider, the broker on record, I'm thinking Larry, giving Dave a call. He's very much aware of those issues and seeing what on that liability from our insurance provider, and coming back in the idea of working with the Horticultural Society. Is there a problem? I mean, you guys look after the grounds now. Working, I don't see there being a problem working with the horticultural. That's fine. Just figuring out the liability, something that you can come back with us in a week's time or whatever will be good. Okay? I think there's just a couple of issues here that we've got to, you know, you feel, I think the deal is working. It's just a matter of getting it down pat.
Oh, exactly, and we're not, I'm not going away mad at all, because I'm not feeling like this is an issue that I think both groups have to address, and that's why I brought it up. We didn't want to just forge ahead and find out halfway through the project that we were going to have a big white elephant on our hands and having some problems, and I don't think either one of us want that. We've got 200 kids that converge on there on a weekly basis, so we want to provide that with some safety. So, yep. Very good. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Randy. Okay. The next one, I have one last direct motions moved by Bev Cutting, second by Carol Lawrence. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby declares the week of June 19th, 2017 to June 25th, 2017 as National Pollinators Week. Okay? That's what we've got. Any further questions or comments on this motion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. Or just bite us any place. Doesn't matter where it is. Don't want to get bit by a bee. Okay. That's it. There's no other closed session. Anything on question? Anyone left? Bob? Mr. Miller.
Not really a question in respect to Horticultural Society. I belong to the Horticultural Society, and I'm pretty sure that there's a standard liability insurance that they'll pay all the horticulture side pays together, so likely to not turn horticulture would have a good chunk of our liability insurance, yeah, that they look after too, so. But it's
Yeah,
not-
for their work.
Not that they had no insurance.
No, I think that's, yeah. Okay, thanks, Bob. Any other questions? Thanks, Randy. That's it. That's it for question period. No municipal act notices. Then one last motion. Rebecca, thank you. Motion number 20. I'll take that. Rebecca moves that we adjourn. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone out there.